thank you for joining us for the media availability portion of the Briefing Council. Merci d'être parmi nous aujourd'hui pour la disponibilité des médias. My name is Constable Amy Gagnon, and I will be your moderator. Je suis l'agente Amy Gagnon, et je serai l'animatrice de cette séance. Before we begin, a reminder to media to put your microphone on mute until I invite you to ask your question. Avant de commencer, j'aimerais vous rappeler de désactiver votre microphone jusqu'à ce que je vous invite à poser votre question. Also, a reminder to all subject matter experts to keep their cameras off unless they are speaking. Un rappel à tous nos conférenciers d'experts de fermer l'option vidéo lorsqu'ils ne répondent pas à une question. With us this afternoon, we have Mayor Jim Watson, le maire Jim Watson, Chief Peter Slowly, le chef de police Peter Slowly, Deputy Chief Steve Bell, le chef adjoint Steve Bell, Deputy Chief Patricia Ferguson, la chef adjointe Patricia Ferguson. We also have City Manager Steve Kanalokis, Directeur Municipal Steve Kanalokis. We have General Manager for the Emergency and Protective Services, Kim Ayotte. Et nous avons aussi le Directeur Général des Services de Protection et d'Urgence, Kim Ayotte. I will now be inviting questions from each agency. It'll be alphabetically. You may ask one question each. Nous allons maintenant répondre aux questions de chaque média par ordre alphabétique. Vous allez pouvoir poser une question chaque. We will begin with Laura Osman. We have Laura Osman, and it'll be followed by Joanne Chianello.
Thank you so much for taking our questions. I just wanted to start by asking if you had any more details about sort of the context around the arrests, particularly the weapons charge, if you can give us any more information about that.
Thank you very much, Laura. I'll turn things over briefly to Deputy Chief Bell for the specifics of the weapons piece. I can again remind listeners and media, thus far, 3 people have been charged with criminal offenses. There are 18 active investigations, including those into the desecration of the war monument, our cenotaph. And this includes the incidents that took place in regards to the Shepherds of Good Hope. We will be releasing today a photo of the individual involved in the crime at the cenotaph, and we will be continuing our appeal to the public to support in identifying this person so that we can arrest them and charge them and prosecute them. We'll appeal to the public to continue to send in any reports of hate crimes or any other crimes in association to this demonstration. We continue to receive calls to our hotline in regards to criminal complaints that are being investigated, hate crime instances that are being investigated by our hate crimes unit. In regards to that specific weapons case, I will turn that over to Deputy Chief Steve Bell.
Thank you, Chief, and thank you for your question, Laura. So specifically around that case, we received information through our open source social media scans that somebody was looking to attend the protest with a weapon. We were able to intervene and intercede that person, and as a result of that stop and the subsequent investigation, a weapon was seized and the male was subsequently charged.
Are you able to say what the weapon was?
Yeah, the weapon was a long gun, and as I indicated, it has been seized and now entered into evidence for the case.
Thank you, Laura. Our next question goes to CBC, Joanne Chianello. It'll be followed by City News, Alex Gouge. Go ahead, Joanne.
Hi, can you hear me there? All right.
Sure,
sure. I have a question for both Chief and the Mayor. Chief, you have said that you increasingly don't believe that there is a policing end to this demonstration, occupation, whatever we're calling it now. Can you be clear about what you mean? That is alarming to people, and I'd like to hear what we're talking about when we say that.
Thank you. Again, we continue to look at every potential option available to us within the legal bounds, from negotiation through to court injunction, through to an enforced removal. All of the options that are available to us. Increasingly, as we see demonstrations, not just here, but elsewhere in the country, where there are efforts by strictly a policing action, we are not as confident as we have been that police alone will resolve this situation substantially, never mind in totality. And it's in that context that I make the statement, there is likely no policing solution to this, but in combination with other efforts, there may be other opportunities to substantially reduce, if not end this demonstration. It is a local demonstration, a provincial demonstration, a national demonstration, and one that has international elements associated to it.
I know, but I don't know what that means, right? When you say other than police, do you need politics? Do you need military? I don't understand the answer. I understand it's not only police, but then what are those other options that are not police options that we might need?
I think you just listed most of them right there.
Mayor, can I have you comment on that?
Yeah, if I can offer a comment, Joanne, this whole protest, march, and occupation can end tomorrow if the leaders of the group show some empathy, as they say they are. People's nerves are frayed. They haven't been able to sleep for 5 nights in a row. People are being harassed on the street. They're being attacked in coffee shops. We see someone wanting to bring a gun down to the Parliament buildings. The organizers of this march are not hurting the government, they're hurting the people of Ottawa. And I think it's time that they show some leadership, show some backbone, and get out in front of this and say, folks, we've made our point. We're doing more harm than good by parking and honking all hours in residential neighborhoods. It's time to move on. That's one of the solutions, is they have the leadership of the movement that claim they want to be empathetic today in a press release. Well, if they're concerned about our city and they give a damn about our city, they'd move on and stop harassing our people. This has gone on far too long. Thank you.
But we know that's not going to happen, right? Like that, or let's just say it seems unlikely that's not going to happen. So the people of Ottawa are thinking, well, what might happen, right? And I think this is one of the things they're looking at. For example, we heard for maybe the first time that there's U.S. funding involved. That could be my follow-up, maybe. I'd like to hear about that.
Sorry, Joanne, there's actually no time for follow-up. We're just doing one question.
Sorry,
each.
all right, thanks.
So, thanks, Joanne. And we now move on to Alex Gouge from City News. Alex will be followed by Ted Raymond from CTV Ottawa. Alex, you may go ahead.
Hello, my question is for Steve Kanalakis today. With some snowfall on the horizon, about like 10 to 15 or 20 centimeters expected, what is the city doing to plan for snow removal in the downtown core given the ongoing demonstration?
Hi, Alex. The city has been working with the police and the National Capital Region Control Center to ensure that the downtown streets get plowed. Obviously, the area that's occupied, or I should say, I don't want to use the word occupy, where trucks are parked on the streets, we won't be able to get into there. We'll have to see if we can get into some of the sidewalks. That's what we're most concerned about in some of those areas. We'll be able to scrape down the roads after, should those trucks move. But in the interim, we're going to be plowing around those areas that are barricaded off, and we'll be able to get to them after. So there should be no disruption to snow clearing in the downtown core, other than the parts where trucks are parked and we can't get our heavy equipment or our sidewalk equipment in to scrape down those sidewalks. So there'll have to be a cleanup after the fact once those trucks move.
Thank you, Alex. We'll now go to Ted Raymond with CTV Ottawa, followed by Craig Lord with Global News. So Ted Raymond, I believe you're here.
Okay, can you hear me
Go
now?
ahead. Yes, go ahead.
Okay, perfect. Sorry about that. Okay, so my question is to Chief Soley. Why did police allow these heavy trucks to just park anywhere they wanted on major roads throughout the downtown, starting on Friday and into Saturday? Was there any anticipation? Did you not anticipate how difficult it would be to get them to move out? And do you think that was a mistake to just allow them to park anywhere and not enforce any of the parking rules that exist in this city?
Yep, thank you very much, Ted. As I explained, maybe you weren't present for the briefing to council. That in fact did not happen. Through extensive efforts of communication, coordination in advance of the trucks arriving in the city, every effort was made to find locations outside of the core where those trucks could be parked and people could move into the downtown core without the volume of trucks. Every effort was made. And in fact, a lot of compliance was achieved through those negotiation and coordination efforts. Thousands and thousands of other trucks arrived well beyond that. And I think, again, it's been explained several times, but I'll say it again. Our ability to negotiate is only with a limited portion of those who've come to Ottawa to demonstrate. Even where we had significant cooperation, there were significant other elements where there was no communication, no desire to coordinate, and certainly no desire to negotiate. In fact, in many cases, quite the opposite. Very volatile, confrontational, non-compliant behavior by wide numbers of individuals, groups, and other organizations that were not part of the core transportation, truck transportation group that came through here. That continues to be our number one problem. Despite days and days and days of communication and coordination, we were only able to get significant success with those willing to come to the table to communicate and negotiate. And we have had significant success as a result of it. But this demonstration is not monolithic. It doesn't represent any one cause. And in fact, that is the very nature of its unprecedented, risky context that we are challenged with here today. We did get a lot of trucks to not come into the downtown core. A lot more came, and a lot of them had no intention to follow any direction. I will ask Deputy Chief Ferguson to speak to the traffic plan that we're putting in place for this weekend.
Thank you, Chief, and thanks for the question, Ted. So we have hardened the footprint that we have right now, and that you may have heard we'll be putting up barriers, concrete barriers and other jersey barriers to prevent any more vehicles from getting in that area. We are limited in the amount of barriers that we are able to put up. We cannot obviously just put up barriers around all of Ottawa and prevent people from rolling in. So the chief mentioned we are doing a lot of negotiations with our police liaison team, and our traffic officers are now focusing their enforcement on Highway Traffic Act violations. And we've seen a number of them taking place in terms of people driving the wrong way down certain streets, that type of behavior, and reckless driving and without due care and attention for the motoring public. So we will be enforcing those rules in earnest moving forward.
Just to reinforce that, Ted, again, thank you for your question. We are engaging in enforcement from bylaw infraction, parking infraction with the support of city bylaw. Kim Ayat has provided information in an earlier briefing to council around a large number of tickets issued within the immediate vicinity of the footprint of the demonstration. Increasingly, as we've been able to free up our officers and our bylaw partners, we've been able to move that enforcement out beyond the immediate zone into our communities that have been most impacted. That will continue to escalate the level of enforcement for bylaw, provincial statutes, as well as criminal code statutes, which I briefed on an earlier question. Increasing, escalating enforcement has been part of our plan, will continue to be part of our plan. People are being arrested, people are being charged, people will be held to account. Today, a week from today, a month from today, years from today, people will be held to account.
Thank you, Ted. Next, we have Craig Lord from Global News. Following Craig, we will have Christy Kirkup from Globe and Mail. So Craig Lord, go ahead, Craig.
Hi there. Good afternoon. Thank you for taking our questions. Chief Slowly, I know that you don't have firm numbers on what we should expect this weekend, but can you give Ottawa residents any sense of what they should expect in general? Will it be a repeat of this past weekend? Will it be diminished, or what will be different this weekend, or the same, as more truckers or convoy supporters are expected to come to Ottawa again?
Thank you very much, Craig, for the question. I'll turn things over to Deputy Chief Bell, who's overseeing our intelligence operation.
Yeah, thanks very much for the question. So in terms of the what we're anticipating this week, as I indicated in the press conference, we've been following intelligence since the inception of the convoy about 2.5 weeks ago. We continue to work with our partners between the RCMP, the OPP, the City de Quebec, et Gatineau Police, to look at gathering as much relevant information as we can in a timely basis to set up and develop our operational plans. That as we're doing that, we're gathering information that we expect to see unfold over the weekend. So far, what we're receiving and what we're anticipating to happen is the convoy and the footprint that is currently within the streets of Ottawa will maintain relatively stable, but we will see an increase in vehicular traffic come into the city. We're following through our intelligence sources many different groups that are indicating that they plan to come to the city to support the protest, similar to what they did last weekend. Beyond those that will come into the city in vehicle, we know last weekend that there was a considerable amount of foot traffic that converged in the market area that we needed to respond to. We anticipate to see those same levels again this weekend, but we expect to see the addition of counter protests as the weekend unfolds. There's been a considerable number of people who have obviously voiced displeasure about what's occurring and have identified that they would attend the downtown core and provide counter protests to the convoy and the truckers in our city.
Thank you, Craig. We will now go to Christy Kirkup from the Globe and Mail, who will be followed by Mylène Crête de La Presse. So go ahead, Christy.
Hi, good afternoon. I'm wondering if we could just go back to the question that Joanne had about the significant element that you talked about in terms of the United States, the funding, organization, and demonstrating that is coming from south of the border. What do you know about this, and what's driving this?
Thank you very much, Christy. I don't think I'll be able to provide much more than what I did before. Through the various levels of intelligence gathering we've been able to get. We've seen funding sources from within Canada. There were some theories that funding was coming from different parts of the world. As of today, the only verification that I've been able to receive are funding sources from the United States.
Thank you, Christy. We will now go to Mylène Crête de La Presse, qui sera suivie de Julien Paquette, Le Droit. Mylène,
oui,
tu peux poser ta question.
J'aimerais savoir, est-ce que vous pouvez nous en dire plus sur la personne qui est recherchée? Maybe I'll ask this in English. In English, can you tell us more about the person that you are looking for in regards to the War Memorial incident? I noticed that the person has a SQ hat on their head.
Thank you very much. I'm going to ask Steve Bell to respond to that question.
Thank you for your question, Melanie. So what you've seen is initially we received through social media many complaints about an individual who was engaging in inappropriate activities on the War Memorial, particularly the Tomb of the Unknown Soldier. We initiated a investigation as well as dialogue with our Crown Attorney's Office. And as a result of that, we've received more social media images as well as other information about the activity of that person during that period of time. Earlier this afternoon, we put out a press release with a picture of the person that we're seeking to identify to look to have people contact with the identity or to have the person engaged in that activity turn themselves into police. That's an ongoing investigation, and we will continue to update on the progress of it.
And Mylène, just so you know, that press release with the picture will be going out this afternoon. Alors, pour tous ceux qui, il y a une photo et un communiqué de presse qui sortira cet après-midi avec la photo et plus d'informations. Merci, Mylène. Maintenant, Julien Paquette avec le droit. Julien Paquette, le droit, followed by Bruce Teachman with the Ottawa Citizen.
Bonjour, content que vous ayez accepté de prendre nos questions aujourd'hui. Les résidents de centre-ville ont plusieurs complaintes à faire. On a entendu vendredi dernier et plus tôt cette semaine que la manifestation ne devrait pas avoir d'impact sur des activités de la ville comme la collecte de déchets, par exemple. Mais j'entends de résidents depuis hier qu'il y a certains édifices à logement où c'était un problème. Donc, je serais curieux d'en savoir davantage. Est-ce qu'il y a effectivement, est-ce que vous êtes capable de nous donner l'information sur effectivement s'il y a des bâtiments où on n'a pas eu accès à cause de la manifestation ou s'il y a des retards de quelconque par rapport à ces services-là?
Kim, est-ce que vous êtes ici pour répondre?
Oui, merci, Julien. À ce moment, nous autres, pour les déchets, on ramasse les déchets et il n'y a pas de problème. Les édifices qui ont des problèmes, peut-être, c'est parce que c'est pas la ville qui ramasse leurs déchets, c'est eux autres qui sont responsables pour leurs déchets eux autres mêmes. Puis peut-être que les camions ou les gens qui viennent chercher les déchets pour ces édifices-là sont pas... ils ont décidé de pas venir parce que ça se passe. Vraiment, c'est un autre problème qu'on n'a pas entendu. C'est la première fois que j'entends ça. Si tu as de l'information, tu pourrais me l'envoyer, puis on pourrait regarder qu'est-ce qu'on peut faire pour leur aider aussi.
Merci, Julien. Thank you, Julien. Next, we go to Bruce Deachman from the Ottawa Citizen, and then followed by John Willing with the Ottawa Sun. So Bruce,
I guess my question, can you hear me?
Sure can, go ahead.
I guess my question is for Chief Slowly, and I appreciate your concerns about not igniting this powder keg, but I'm wondering if, I don't know if you saw on social media, there was a picture of 3 women standing in a road that had stopped a transport truck. And I'm wondering if you are concerned that the perception of inaction is going to cause residents to take matters into their own hands, and especially with Steve Bell mentioning counter-protesters coming this weekend. What are your concerns about that?
Thank you very much for your question. I share those concerns. That's why we've gone as far as we have, and we'll continue to push ourselves to provide the most fulsome information, particularly in briefings to our board, our mayor, our council, and the media. This is almost hour number 4 or 4.5, I'm not sure, today alone for me in terms of briefings to BIAs, board members, the mayor, council members, and now to media. In addition to our social media efforts, we're trying to help people to understand the full context of what we're doing. All options are on the table. Enforcement is escalating. We're moving resources when we can away from the downtown core into the affected neighborhoods to take enforcement actions and to provide a greater sense of safety and service to the citizens. That's being done in coordination with city workers and our partners in policing. But we simply have a significant risk scenario that we can't solve all the problems for in a way that we'd like to. I would really encourage members, we know there's underreporting by community members who have been directly affected by hate incidents and hate crimes. We know there's significant underreporting of people who claim to have been the victims of criminal behavior, threatening behavior, criminal harassment, mischief, minor assaults. We're seeing it on Twitter, we're hearing it from council reports, and we're hearing it from media reports. But if our investigators don't have an actual report of a complaint, they cannot commence a criminal investigation. Where we do have complaints, and so far to date, I remind, we have 18 active investigations into those who reported criminal complaints to us. Within those 18 investigations, we've been able to arrest and charge 3 people for those criminal offenses. We are actively seeking the person wanted in connection to the cenotaph crime. Where we get reports, we are able to assign investigators And so far, we've been able to actually arrest and charge people for those criminal offenses. But we can't arrest, we can't charge people for what we don't have complaints for. Please encourage through your media reporting people to utilize our regular call centers and our hotlines to report criminal activity, hate activity. They will all be investigated, and wherever possible, we will pursue people across the city, across this province, across this country, and internationally to charge them for those offenses.
Thank you.
Thank you. We do have a hard stop at 5. We're hoping to get through 2 more questions. Unfortunately, I believe Deputy Bell will have to leave us shortly. So we're going to go with John Willing with the Ottawa Sun and Marie-Christine Villeneuve with TVA Gatineau. So,
I think,
John.
It's great. Thanks for taking our questions. Why are protesters allowed to set up what looks like a supplies and logistics camp in the parking lot of the Ottawa Baseball Stadium?
Thank you very much for that question. I'm going to turn that over to Deputy Chief Ferguson for a response.
Thank you, Chief. Thank you, John. We, as part of the sort of negotiations and our police liaison team, along with the city, we were able to establish some places that were out of the city's core and footprint to provide people with the opportunity to some basic human needs. And so this was part of a negotiation that we were able to release. Otherwise, those people would be downtown in our streets, potentially causing some of the issues that we're seeing now. That was the reason for it.
Thank you, John. Et maintenant, Marie-Christine Villeneuve, TVA Ottawa Gatineau. And we'll take from Marie-Christine Villeneuve from TVA Gatineau.
Can we also have Alex from the Star? I turned down the interview saying come to the press conference, so I don't want to mislead him. So if we can have him after TVA.
Yep, we'll try and make the questions quick and the answers quick so we can fit them in then. So we have Marie-Christine, unmute, please. So we can hear you. On t'entend pas, Marie-Christine. Okay. We'll go to Alex Baligal from the Toronto Star in the meantime. So, Alex.
Hey, sorry, can you hear me okay?
Yep, go ahead, Alex.
Thanks, Mayor Watson, for getting me in here. I just want to understand, I think this is a question for Chief Slowly, actually. I just want to kind of understand where this is going. So it sounds like we're expecting maybe thousands of more people to come back to have a similar demonstration that we saw last weekend, again this weekend. You're saying that the police alone increasingly looks like you can't solve it alone. The organizers themselves are saying they're not going anywhere. We're expecting this huge re-influx of people. What is this looking more and more like you're going to need to call in support from the military in order to end this? What is the trajectory of this situation in your view?
Thank you very much for the question, Alex. I know it's an answer that didn't seem to have traction before, but I'll go back to it again. My responsibility as a chief of police here is to serve and protect the city, and to do so in the most effective and adequate way possible. While I have a certain amount of ability to negotiate and use a range of options all the way through to the use of force and the application of enforcement through bylaw, provincial statute, and federal statute, including criminal charges, all of which we have done and will continue to do. We are charging people under the bylaw. We are charging people under the Provincial Offences Act. We are charging people criminally. We have a range of active criminal investigations, and we will charge the people who are responsible for the offenses, no matter how long it takes and where they live and where they register their vehicles. But I do not have a mandate under the Police Services Act to negotiate with the tens of thousands of people who come to Ottawa to exercise their charter of right to free speech, freedom of movement. I need to try to do so with them, try to work with them to do so in the most safe way possible and to encourage the most lawful activities possible. But I don't have a singular mandate in the city, this province, or this country to negotiate the end to any demonstration. There always needs to be an element outside of the police for any truly successful end to any demonstration, particularly one of this size and nature. So all options are on the table. All of them are being explored, from enforcement to injunctions, from negotiation to the invocation of other civil actors and other elected officials at other levels of government to try to find a swift, sustainable, and safe end to this demonstration. This is a demonstration happening in Ottawa. It's happening in other parts of the country, and it's happening in other parts of the world. This is not a simple local demonstration.
Okay, thank you. We have time for one last question. We're going to go to Paul Vieira with the Wall Street Journal. Paul?
Yes. Does Chief Stoley, Mayor Watson, I mean, the message is that this may not be resolved with a policing solution. Are you asked? Do you believe that the Prime Minister has to get involved in this in order to bring an end to the demonstration, protest, occupation?
Is that to the chief?
Whoever wants to answer.
Chief?
That's a question for politicians to decide. It's a question for the Prime Minister's office if you choose to send that to him. I have a responsibility under the Police Act to look after the safety of the city, and that's exactly what I've been doing. We'll continue to do so, but there needs to be other elements brought into finding a safe, swift, and sustainable end to this demonstration that's happening here and across the country.
If I can add, we obviously are going to require the resources and the goodwill of all three orders of government because this is bigger than the City of Ottawa. We happen to be targeted because we're the home to the nation's capital. But obviously, we're going to have to continue to count on the support of our federal government and the provincial government for a number of things, including funding and resources to ensure that we bring this protest to a peaceful conclusion sooner than later. Thank you. Merci.
Thank you. Unfortunately, we apologize to the media we have not been able to get to. Alors, on s'excuse aux médias auxquels on n'a pas pu avoir le temps de poser vos questions. This concludes the time we have. And so, cela conclut le point de presse pour aujourd'hui. Thank you very much for having joined us. Merci de vous être rejoints à nous.